With a quarter of the season and the easy games behind them, Penn State football is at 4-0. Now it's time for the Nittany Lions to dive into the Big Ten. My name is Kendall Stalicky, joined alongside Jude, Wozniak, and Elle. Before we talk about the future of this team, Penn State is coming off of a home victory against Central Michigan, where the offense looked close to perfect, but the defense giving up 363 yards made the game much closer than predicted. So, Jude, I'll start with you. How do you feel about the team's performance this past weekend?
I'm very up and down with it because the pass defense throughout the whole season has looked very bad. They looked bad against Ohio. They allowed too many passing yards there. They allowed a lot of garbage time passing yards against Auburn. And then we know what happened in Purdue and Aiden O'Connell, who's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in college football. However, the Central Michigan team, it feels like whenever they had far down in distances, they were able to pass down and get closer to where they needed to be, whether it was an easy fourth down or maybe make a third and manageable. The pass defense, although they are one of the top teams in the nation in passes deflected, which is 41, I don't know what is going on when they continue to allow this many yards to low-level teams like this in Central Michigan and the MAC. They have to look out for it, but I will give them some praise when it comes to creating turnovers because the secondary, not only in interceptions, is able to force turnovers in the fumble game as well. They are 11th in the nation in terms of turnovers and 5th in plus-minus, so credit out to the offense as well. However, this secondary is hungry, and it always seems like they have their hand in the cookie jar when they want to have a turnover. Going over to the offense, I think Sean Clifford has been phenomenal all year. People don't like it. You hear it in the stands chanting, "We want Drew." I don't agree with it. I think he's Heisman potential, but that's just my hot take on the season so far. Clifford, he is having a season to remember so far, on pace to have his highest touchdowns, highest yards per game, highest rushing touchdowns. So in general, he's looked good. He hasn't turned over the ball. He's only had one interception on the year, so this offense has looked good. They've ran the ball well. Katron Allen, he was up and down in the first half, but in the second half, 7 carries for 72 yards, which was phenomenal for him at a 37-yard run. And I know Elle will talk about it later, how he was so good in that game. But the offensive line has really kept this offense afloat, so I can't complain on the offense. The defense, I'm a little worried about.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. There have definitely been some highlights that we've seen on the offense so far, especially in this game. And like you said, Katron Allen has had a terrific time, especially against Central Michigan. He was named this week as the Big Ten's Freshman Player of the Week. He had 111 yards, he had a touchdown, and that was all just within 13 carries. You know, he is paired up with Nick Singleton. They're both known as the dynamic duo right now when it comes to Penn State's running backs. And, you know, he's really starting to shine. We've seen a lot from Nick Singleton so far from the season, but now we're actually really starting to see Allen come up and really draw the spotlight on him. And we're starting to see this dynamic duo really come together. And I would also have to agree with you on the defense. You know, there's some things that need to be worked on, and that yardage was not really expected. It was honestly kind of shocking, the high amount that they had this weekend. And I would have to say, though, that there were also some highlights that we saw on the defense. Kalen King, he had 4 pass breakups, and he also had the fumble recovery, which was a big turning point for Penn State football in the second half of the game. I would have to say, though, that this game was definitely a learning point for Penn State football, and I hope they go into this weekend with a much broader sense of what they have to do, and they learn from it.
Yeah, both great points, and I definitely agree that this game really showed us how much weaker this team's defense is than their offense, but Penn State did win and are now 4-0, so going forward, who do you think is the biggest threat to ending this winning streak, and who needs to step it up to keep it alive?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a specific team. However, I am going to say it's the bye week. If you look at the bye week under the James Franklin era, he is 3-6 now in his career here at Penn State, and he has been abysmal, losing to teams he should not have lost to. Yes, you look back into 2016, he won against Ohio State at home, but last year you look at the 9-overtime loss against Illinois, which they came off a loss against Iowa, and they should not have lost that game, regardless of Clifford being hurt. It shouldn't have mattered. They should have won that game, and they should have came out with ease and not struggled, regardless of the weather that happened at that time. I know it was raining, but they have really struggled out of the bye. If you want to look at a team specifically, yes, you can say if it's the bye week, then you say Michigan, because Michigan has looked good this year. However, they struggled against Maryland last week, so who knows? And that was in the Big House out for Maryland, a home game, and Penn State plays at Michigan this year. But I always still think that Ohio State's still the top dog in this Big Ten East Division. So you have to look at it, and I mentioned the cornerbacks. Will they be able to stop those receivers out there for Ohio State? And you saw Marvin Harrison Jr. out there this week wearing Louis Vuitton cleats and an Apple Watch. That is scary to watch, lining up across him. So we'll really have to see what happens, but I think Ohio State's still the team to beat that would affect them in this perfect season. And as I said, people to step up. It needs to be Joey Porter. It needs to be Kalen King. And the middle linebackers need to be able to stop that running attack for Ohio State later on.
I'm very hopeful that Penn State comes off of this bye week with a 5-0 record, and I'm hoping that they go into Michigan with a lot more confidence coming off of the win, and I'm really hoping that they stick to practicing and keep their heads in the game during the practicing. And, last year when they played Michigan, they had some weird decisions that they made, like the fake kickoff. That was a bit odd, and it didn't exactly work in their favor. And there were some players that, had some breakdowns on defense. Clifford was kind of injured during that game. But this season, hopefully they're able to really pull it off because Clifford's back and healthy. We have some young talent that's bringing a new energy to the field. And hopefully they're able to pull the win out this season. Minnesota is going to be a big game that's white out. The stadium is going to be completely energetic. It's going to be so exciting. So hopefully that energy provides a positive impact on Penn State, and the team's really able to pull out that win again. Ohio State's going to be a challenge. It's always been a challenge for Penn State. It's probably going to be the biggest game of the season. And it's just going to be based on, can they fix what they need to fix? Can they do what they need to do? And it's going to be a challenge, but I'm hopeful that they're able to really pull it off.
Yeah, I think Michigan's going to be a huge game and obviously a challenge. But if Penn State can win the line of scrimmage battle, I think they can come out on top of that game. And then, as you said, focus on the whiteout and obviously the huge mashup against Ohio State in Happy Valley. But so Penn State came in at number 11 currently in the AP poll rankings. I think that if they can win on the road against teams like Auburn and Purdue, that this could potentially be a top 10 team. So Elle, I'll come to you first this time. What do you think?
So I think seeing Penn State go up in the rankings is great. It's exciting to see, your own team go up, the one that you really support. But at this point in the season, rankings aren't too important. It's when we get into the more serious games and the more competitive games that we really start to see these rankings matter. Penn State's in a situation where they're ranked with all of the undefeated teams. So it's a matter of, are they going to stick to the ranking that they currently have, or are they really going to show that they should be higher or they should be lower in the rankings?
For me, I look at it and I think that this is a top 6 team in the nation. You look at the teams that they've played, you look at the teams that they've beat. They've beaten the SEC team. They've beaten the Big Ten team on the opposite side of the division. They have the echelon of wins that can rank them high up. However, it's wins like this weekend that make me question if they should be ranked where they are. I said that they should be 11 or 12 after this weekend. That's a fair ranking for them. However, if they would have beaten the brakes off of Central Michigan, I could have seen them jumping Kentucky, jumping Oklahoma State, who's coming off a bye, NC State, who has been up and down. Yeah, they've had some big wins, but at the start of the year, they didn't play too well against Eastern Carolina, so who knows what's going to happen with them. But I think that this Penn State team is a top 6 team in the country. I think that they could compete against Michigan. I think that they'll compete against Ohio State at home. I think that they're better than Clemson, if you saw this weekend. I think Clemson got lucky that Wake Forest wasn't able to pull that one out at home. But I think this Penn State team is a top 6 team in the country. It's just, can they beat the teams by a lot that they're supposed to beat by a lot? And they have those games later on. And then, of course, can they come out of that 3-game stretch of Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio State, 3-0, 2-1? That's all that matters, and you can control your own destiny with that. But I think 11 is a good spot for them. I know some people want them top 10, but with the way they played this weekend, they can't be put top 10.
Yeah, I agree. The team definitely has a lot to prove on the field in the coming weeks, and hopefully they can eventually secure a top 10 spot. That's all we have for this edition of Penn State Sports Night. This week serves as another stepping stone for the Nittany Lions as Michigan looms on the horizon. For Jude, Wozniak, and Elle, I'm Kendall Stalicky. Thanks for watching and have a great night.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night. We hope you liked that segment.
And we're sure there's other Penn State Sports Night segments that you are going to love as well. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.
And check us out on social media for updates and behind-the-scenes clips and pics. Follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action.
For all of us here at the Belisari Media Center, we are
Penn State Sports Night.